Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the RENNSPORT Road to Launch series here in round 4 at Spa-Francorchamps. My name's Lino, and alongside me in the commentary booth is Tim Ireland. Welcome, Tim.
Hello Lino, hello everyone on Twitch. How are you guys doing today? It's a Sunday, you can't be that bad surely.
Especially after what a weekend we had here this week. It has been pretty action-packed, and it's gonna be even more interesting now with the BMW M2s here at Spa, as we head closer to the launch of RENNSPORT. But yeah, that aside, yesterday, I mean in RCL, lots of action and a very, very close fight between 3 drivers, and 2 of these particular drivers in the hunt for this championship as well.
Yeah, we've got another double split race here for the Road to Launch. So we've got some of the better drivers in this one, and some returning drivers we haven't seen for quite a while. So that could really mix up the order. We'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, very much so indeed. I think it will be quite interesting. Right now in qualifying, on board, or not on board, but looking at Dominic Ladler, where we see all the other cars behind. Julian Chicot definitely still in the game on 43 points in the championship. We'll take a look at the championship in just a moment's time. But most notably, equal on points with Dominic Ladler at the top of the timing sheets. And apparently not putting in a lap time is Alizar here. So very interesting to see him not in the qualifying session. Now coming up to Stavelot, and then this very long run up the hill towards Blanchimont. Very important to take a lot of speed out of that turn. And especially in the race, I think we will see some slingshotting, don't you think?
Yeah, I think there's going to be quite a few places around Spa that people can get a bit of a slingshot move in with the M2 CS. It doesn't get the greatest amount of slipstream. I know if you saw us last week, people did have trouble making overtakes down the Fuji main straight.
Hope that this was just an outlier for today. So my internet again just decided to take a little break. But yeah, you were going on about Fuji, and I think Fuji last week around was very interesting for that, because people had slipstream down the straight, but it didn't necessarily equal to getting an overtake done.
Yeah, they couldn't quite get there. You really needed to get a good exit out of the last corner. But I think here, I don't know why, but I think here at Spa there might be a bit more slingshotting going on. I mean, obviously you've got Is your internet broken, or do you just kill it whenever I start talking?
Apparently it doesn't like you very much. But yeah, as you were starting to say, it's got lots of opportunities to slingshot past. One man that knows this very well is Max Dehn, who we see for the first time in about 2 months back in the car after having to undergo some surgery. So maybe he will, like some Formula 1 drivers, become even faster than he already was. He is currently on pole position by 6/10 over Dominic Ladler and 1.3 seconds over a new driver, Seppuku Ravelli, which I didn't have on the board going into this session.
Nope, no, me neither, but it's always great to see new people turning up and mixing it with the regulars, so well done, Seppo.
He is the winner from last week, Room CS. had a very tough fight with Alizaya. I feel mocked. This is interesting.
German internet efficiency.
But yeah, coming across the line to settle lap time, and Kimi Hapler, who we haven't talked about yet, taking pole position over Max Dehn and Dominik Ladler. So Kimi Hapler coming out of the shadows of this qualifying session. Didn't really have him...
And only 3/10 separating Kimi, Max and Dominic there as well, so that's a pretty close at the front of the field.
And of course it's already some points to his name. I think it's quite interesting. You know, it seems like we are missing Alizaya so far from this session, which would be a big blow, of course, to his championship, unfortunately.
Yeah, he seems to have dropped out of the server, so I'm guessing he's got some technical problems.
Just waiting for everybody to get ready now. Maybe, hopefully, see Alizaya joining the grid, but currently it doesn't seem like he is able to.
Yeah, he's down as a DNS now.
We will just try one thing for a second, but yeah, the race just postponed for a second here.
Yeah, Ali is just in the pits. And Tony Thomas. So maybe two of them.
So we are restarting in the hopes of getting everybody onto the grid for the actual race. So this time it will be a bit of a challenge for Alizaya, of course, to come from the back, but it will present more action to all the drivers. So now this time around, 13 cars.
Fortunately, I don't think Tony Thomas got the memo about the restart and he's left.
There we see the red lights are on. Kimi Hapler and Max Dehn on the front row, and it's been a good getaway. Not a good getaway there from P4. I think that was Sepulchra Valley. But Kimi Hapler on the inside of Max Dehn, who's immediately trying to go the long way around the outside. Dominik Ladler just behind them. Big side race moment there for the 12 of Sepulchra Valley, who's alongside Ruben CS, who already made up a spot or two. As we head down in towards Eau Rouge for the first time here today. And it's been a good start. And contact there at the top of Eau Rouge, that's the last thing you want to do. But both drivers keeping the cars under control. And we freight train down towards Le Combe.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of gaps in the field right now, so this could be a bit hectic. Everyone seemed to get it through pretty clean, though.
Again, another bit of contact there between Room CS and Sepulchra Valley. Further moves being done further down the grid. We also, of course, have a second split here today, so this is top split racing. But it also seems like the top two of Max Dehn and Kimi Hapler are able to build a bit of a gap to Dominik Ladler behind. Alizaya up to 9th already.
Julian Sicko also gaining 3 places so far, so he's had a pretty good start.
Let's go on board with Alizai here. Currently behind Emil from GST. As we see Max Dehn dropping down, the order being stationary.
Yeah, I think.
It's just
Car number 10, Chestu Monera, also still stationary on the track, and he's quit.
for Max Dehn though, he's not having any technical issues. It seems he's just parked outside the track bounds.
That's put newcomer Seppo Cavalli up to 3rd place, which is pretty good for his debut race.
Yeah, indeed, and he's hunting down Dominik Ladler, who of course would currently lead the championship out of this race, but Alizai is making his way through, already moved up into 7th, now past Emil, and hunting down Julien Checot.
There's a very tight pack of cars ahead of him, so there's a lot of places to be made up there if you can make some progress through them.
And he will hope for Seppo Cavalli to put a bit of a challenge on Dominik Ladler, who is slowly losing the contact to Kimi Hapler out front. So he also will have less slipstream, and now going up the hill. Seppo Cavalli seems like he has a good run. Is he going for the outside? Dominik Ladler defending towards the inside line. But Seppo trying to have a look on the inside still. So you can definitely see what he would prefer. But going into Le Com side by side, but it's Dominik Ladler leading out of Malmedy. Julien Checot trying to find his way past Enrico Bräuninger for P5. It's not the first time these two have battled at Spa. Again on board with Enrico Bräuninger. Gaps are starting to build up a bit here.
Yeah, Julien Sicko closing up on Enrico Bräuninger, so that's going to start making a little bit of a fight there, which Ali Zahir might be able to take advantage of. Hopefully not too much of a fight, though, because he won't want to lose position to Ruben CS and Seppo Cavalli ahead of them.
And Alizai almost pushing Julien Checot, but now going alongside into Blanchimont. Seems like he's backing out of it. But he shows that he clearly has the pace to close in on the lead pack if he just gets the chance to get by the cars in front. Kimi Hapler out front though, already nearly 2 seconds to Dominik Ladler. After 3 laps. Oh, 2 laps, sorry, my mistake. Very long laps here at Spa. And Seppo Cavalli very wide and into the wall, exiting a Rouge. And that car is torn up. I think that is...
Yeah, that is a messed up M2. He's going to require a fair stop in the pits. And I think that's quitting back.
What a strong start to the race. But yeah, he got loose over the top multiple times. Of course, we're not sure what kind of setup he decides to run. It's open setup in this race. So Alizai is now up into P6 with that. But yeah, you saw him lose on the top of Rouge, on the top of Radeon, rather said, a lot of times. And maybe this one was just a bit too much. Maybe also a bit too close to Dominik Ladler in the dirty air. And now Julian Chicot on the inside of Enrico Bräuninger. Moving past the German.
Well, at the front of the race now, then, that's left Dominik Ladler 2 seconds behind Kimi Harpler, and then Ruben CS 2 seconds behind him. So they've got a bit of free space to just kind of get their heads down and do some laps. Whereas Ali Zahir is still fighting his way forward. Biggest gains at the minute are... Oh.
It seems like Kimi Harpler's having some issues now.
Yeah, Kimi going in for a DNF.
Very odd race so far.
It's a bit, isn't it?
So of course some connection issues, but also it seems like some internet or hardware related issues.
Yeah, apparently Seppo had a hardware failure, which led to hitting the wall.
It would be interesting to know what happened to Kimi Harpler, because it seemed like that was internet cutting out. Because he still remained in the race shortly after.
Yeah, I'm just watching the replay to see if I can get an idea of what happened there, but... Seems to be okay. Yeah, he just seems to disconnect. His car goes immediately ghosted, and he just goes stationary on track.
Alizano really putting pressure onto the two cars in front. Very unusual, this one. It's not what we've seen in the Road to Launch series so far, and also not a long time in the other leagues like RCL and Arne.
No, everything seemed pretty good yesterday, and then today, maybe Sunday, the servers have decided to take a break.
Whatever the case is, it left Dominik Ladler out front leading and Ali Zaya up into P5 coming from the back of the grid and trying to get a podium out of this. It's not too far away from Julian Chicot, but Room CS, his big rival from Fuji last time out, is of course up into P2, but with a bit of a gap, and now Ali Zaya trying to go to the inside of Blanchimar. Last time he backed out against Julian Chicot, this time he stays in, forces Enrico Bräuninger a bit wide, but makes the move stick.
Our last podium sitter as it stands, Julian Chicot, also gaining 7 places, so he's had a pretty good race as far as gaining positions goes.
Only the last car on track is Michael G. Currently running in 8th.
Fastest car on track, probably not as surprisingly, Dominik Ladler with a 2:32.79.
I mean, I'm sure he will gladly take the fastest lap point. Because if we just quickly take a look at the current standings, we can see going into this race, if we could see that, there we have it, that Ali Zai and Dominik Ladler went into this one equal on points. They both missed the race, Dominik Ladler missing Fuji and Ali Zai skipping out the first race of the season. So yeah, I think so far you can say they were equal. But now we have Ali Zaya and Dominik Ladler on track. course, Alizar having to make up a lot more ground without having the opportunity to do a qualifying lap. But they, I think, show why they are equal on points going into this race, and with still some races left to go, I think everything is wide open in this championship. Julian Chicot, Piotr Zadaibe, also still, I mean, they're a bit remote, but there is a chance for them to come in as well. Ruben CS, after his victory last time about, also collecting further points in this one would mean that he would jump up the standings quite a bit. But yeah, I think it's an interesting situation to be in for our two championship contenders.
Yeah, I think Dominic was probably hoping for a bit more of a gap, but Ali's done some amazing early laps here and really closed that gap up. He's starting to look like he's going to be making moves on Julian Chicot. He's not content with being back in fourth. He wants to be on that podium.
But Julian Chicot also wants to stay on that podium. And I think he would also like to take some points off of Ali in this race. But maybe now with the better exit out of the bus stop, that may be the chance that Alizar needed. But Julian Chicot salvaged it quite well. Now going for the up and under.
Will make the big defensive moves after Eau Rouge and the Camel Straight.
Can really see
Ali dropping back a little bit there.
But that I think is a conscious decision, because we've seen that with Seppo earlier, that you run into the car in front too early and then you can't really get a slingshot by. Alizar now has the chance to get somewhat alongside, going into Le Com and down the inside. Makes the move stick, and that is Alizar up into P3. But Julian Chicot is not done yet, quite.
No, it doesn't look like he's willing to just call it a day at that. But Enrico Breuninger's catching him up and he's looking ready to pounce. So they don't want to mess around too much.
He's still within striking distance. But Alizar now is looking at a 6-second gap to this man, to Room CS, who himself seems to not lose too much time to Dominic Ladler either. Maybe even gaining in certain parts of the track.
Well, in a mirror to yesterday's race, Dominic Ladler's best lap right now is a 2:32.790, and Ruben CS has done a 2:32.791. So not a lot between those two guys as far as pace is concerned.
Yesterday we were a bit more close on track physically. I think
yes,
you'd be forgiven with about forgetting that. But yeah, the margins are still not big between those drivers. And especially for Dominic Ladler. He has 20 more minutes left to go, about 8 to 9 laps. He doesn't want to take too many risks, I think. So just having that slight bit of cushion between the two of them, knowing even if he pushes, I can retain the gap, is quite valuable.
Yeah, Ladler's, not last lap, but the lap before, he was about 2/10 slower than Ruben CS, but you've got to do kind of 11 of those before Ruben is in a position to make a move, so he knows he can make a little bit of a mistake and it's not too big of a deal.
But how capable Room is, we've seen that last time around in Fuji. And Alizar seems to slowly be catching up to Room. But it's really not much that he is catching up.
No, the last lap around Alizar here was 4/10 slower than Ruben. Both Ruben and Dominic doing 2:33 deads. Alizar here doing a 2:33.45. So he lost out a little bit of time there, the last lap round. But the gap does seem to be, in general, closing a little bit, down to 5.6 seconds. I think it was over 6 seconds before.
You can see the gap that Dominik Lala has to Room, which has closed down by about 1.5 tenths. It's always fluctuating a bit, depending on where we are on track. Seems like Room is a bit stronger in the opening sector.
The good news for these guys is they shouldn't have to be contending with any kind of lap traffic anytime soon. 17 minutes left of the race, and the gap
and
from
Room
the first
CS?
driver to the
Room CS big off in Stavelo, hitting the gravel trap and going straight as it seems.
And that's Ali Zahir getting past him, which will be music to Ali's ears. But commiserations for Ruben CS there.
Next one to go by is Julian Chico. He's not coming into the pits, so he's trying to salvage what's possible with that. But yeah, it just seems like he went a bit wide into the gravel. And once you do that in this car, you kind of go straight at some point.
Yeah, it's a car that's very, very dependent on mechanical grip. And obviously going in the gravel, not great for mechanical grip.
For Enrico Bräuninger, this might open up a chance to get closer to Julian Chico again. Because if Julian gets a bit stuck behind Ruben, because it seems like the car is still somewhat going. But it could help Enrico Bräuninger to close in on Julian Chico and essentially make it a fight for the podium again.
And as far as championship points goes, Ali Zahir has taken the fastest lap away from Dominik Ladler. So that's a double point swing as far as that's concerned.
Julian Chico now trying to get past Room, but Room, even with that well-stricken car, able to keep him at bay, interestingly enough.
The spectator HUD isn't always entirely accurate with car damage, so you can take this with a big old pinch of salt, but from what I'm seeing, Ruben's car is perfectly fine in the way of suspension and just has a little bit of aero damage. So he'll be a little bit down on top speed, but he seems pretty good around corners, to be honest.
But now Julian Chico is up into third and through, and now Enrico Bräuninger has to not lose too much time here behind the Spaniard, to not lose too much time to Chico if he wants to have a shot at the podium. This corner, the run through Stavelo, it's so crucial because you have to carry so much speed. But you're also so much on the balance of or on the edge of the car there with the balance. As Bräuninger's now trying to go the long way around the outside. And does so.
Always a bit of a nerve-wracking move whenever I try that one. It's never a place I want to go too wide.
It always depends on who's on your inside, but even then they can just slightly misjudge the corner, hit their curb on the inside and can basically send you flying.
Yeah, or drift a little bit wide on the exit, which not necessarily no malicious fault of anyone's, but it's so easy to do. You're both trying to get as much speed as you can through there.
But Enrico Bräuninger still not too far away from Julian Chico. Led out throughout Eau Rouge, you can see Enrico Bräuninger's car getting very loose there on the top of Radeon. Basically jumping sideways for a moment.
frustrating for Ruben right now as he's just seeing his car not quite have the top speed as everyone else going down them big straights and watching the gap open up. It's never a great feeling when you're racing.
Dominic Ladler out front though, not really bothered by all of this. He's got a 7-second lead over Ali Zaya.
Yeah, Ali is lapping a little bit quicker, but it's for the remaining 13 minutes of the race. He's going to have to lap quite a lot quicker than Dominic to close that gap up. So I don't think Dominic's too bothered about answering that right now.
So currently still 8 cars out on track. Of course, all of them collecting a decent amount of points for themselves. But yeah, as we've said before, very unfortunate for those who couldn't make it to the finish here.
Yeah, not quite the auspicious return to RENNSPORT I think some people were hoping for. But thank you for turning up. I'm trying.
And of course there will be another race in this series, it isn't the last. There's still racing left to do. And the next one will be Edward Atlanta. Your favorite track?
It is my favorite track. One great track to another. No killer, no filler on the tracks list.
So yeah, an all-time classic within RENNSPORT. Going in for P5, round 5, or P5. P5 currently going to Rooms, yes. But yeah, Road Atlanta, I think you don't really have to say much, especially with the M2. I think it has proven itself various times, especially in the M2 leagues we had done by Bruno Riberas and Enrico Bräuninger. Always delivered a lot of action. And a very demanding track with this car as well. Of course, with open setups, this may be quite interesting to see what people will do to their suspension setups. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Same time as today, on Sunday. And of course, next week, on a Saturday, we don't have RCL, but we have something else. We will announce it this week, so make sure to stay tuned on our socials, because we got something that was a lot of fun the last few times around. So we decided to do it again. But yeah, back to M2s here at Spa-Francorchamps with 10 minutes left to go. Dominic Lala 6.6 seconds to Alizaya, so Alizaya definitely taking a bit of time out of this lead, but I don't think it's enough to really challenge Dominic Lala for the end of the race, is it?
Ladler and Zahir both going back into the 32s. They had popped out of the 32s for a little bit, so that's put Ladler back into fastest lap territory. 32.664 versus 32.696. Taking it by a couple of hundredths of a second there, but that's a good couple of point swing in the championship.
Yeah,
over Ali Zahir.
It will decide whether Alizai goes out with a 3-point disadvantage to Dominic Lala or a 5-point disadvantage, which in the end can be very close and very decisive. But Alizai with a very strong Sector 2 on this lap around. It's almost like we are commentating on qualifying now. But coming across the line, it's a 32.3, and it is enough to get the fastest lap point again. But
yeah, Ali pushing it quite good there, getting another 3/10 on top of Dominic Ladler with that time. He's really just kind of getting in his groove and improving those lap times.
Enrico Bräuninger still not too far away from Julian Checo, but he also can't really get close enough to make any moves on the podium positions. But still got a few laps to go, so maybe he's just trying to get his car into state that he can make a move, trying to wear down Julian Chico's tires a bit.
Yeah, he's kind of just on the edge of where he's going to start gaining slipstream, but it's not going to be a lot from back there. If you can get a couple of tenths closer, it'll really start to make a difference.
And meanwhile in chat, of course, some discussions about the fortunate DNFs that we had in this race. Of course, we read the chat. We always have an eye on it. It's just sometimes hard to implement the chat into the flow of the commentary. But yeah, we will, of course, take a look at what happened, trying to find solutions for the future races. Like with the qualifying, that should be no issue in the next race anymore. But yeah, of course, unfortunate. And we hope to be back with a better performance next time out in Road Atlanta. Like we had in Fuji last time. Like we had at Daytona before. And of course, like we had at the season opener. Which also is already 4 weeks ago.
It doesn't seem long ago that we started this series, but here we are, 4 weeks in.
Of course, that one at the Nordschleife was a bit special. Either way.
The Nordschleife is always special.
That is very true. But yeah, of course, with launch coming closer and each week we start talking about it a bit more. It's pretty much 1 month and a few days until RENNSPORT is going to launch on consoles and also fully on PC. And I think it is quite interesting what we will see then in terms of influx of new players. We have seen some very fast controller players, so that will be a big point of it. And of course we are already planning some competition for everybody to take part in. And of course our mainstays, the RENNSPORT Community League, the RENNSPORT Nordschleife League, they will return. And hopefully keep people entertained as they did in the last few races. But we have one more RCI race left to go before we launch in November. And that is in 2 weeks on Saturday. We go, as voted by you, to Daytona for the big Season 7 finale. And I'm excited for that. How about you?
Yeah, I am as well. I think it's going to be some great racing. And then RCL taking a little well-deserved break, I think, before the launch. But so it'll be good to see these guys go out with a bang at Daytona, where we know that racecraft, as much as anything, can be a big, important factor.
And I mean, Daytona with the slipstream, we've seen it with so many different cars that it's entertaining. I think the Florida Beach 500 we did in early August was one of the coolest events we ever did. Proper, I think in the end it was 2.3 hours, so the 500-mile event. And it was a lot of fun to see that with the different classes, lots of fighting going on. Just like now really between Bräuninger and Chico. Bräuninger now in a very good position. Maybe a bit too close into Blanchimont. Julian Chico is setting indicator to the left. Not sure what he wants to tell Enrico with that. But Enrico is surely going for the left-hand side. Going into the bus stop. And now the right-hand side indicator on Chico's car. So 5 minutes left to do in this race. I think we should see about 2 laps. Depends on when exactly Dominic Lala is crossing the line. Dominic Lala also improved on his best lap time, but wasn't good enough to equal Alizar here.
No, not quite. He did by a tenth. He did his own best lap time. But yeah, not quite enough to take away the fastest lap points. Ali doing another 32 that lap round. He had a little bit of a wild exit to one corner. Otherwise, I think he might have beaten it himself.
Enrico Breuninger going the long way around in Lecom. Julian Chico coming back around the outside. Now Enrico with the better one out of Malmedy, but blocked by Chico. Again having his nose in on the inside of Bruxelles. Now with the better one through No Name. And we drag race towards Puhon. Is oddly familiar, just with different cars.
One thing I don't see happening so much in RENNSPORT, which from other sim racing games that I've been involved in, and Bruxelles always seems to be way more of an overtaking opportunity than here. You don't seem to have people going into there as hard as other sims, shall I say.
It shows always a bit of a challenge, because in Bruxelles you don't really have much grip, do you? And
No.
you're sometimes just better off by trying to make a move out of No Name, like Enrico tried this time around. Didn't quite work out in the end, but was a good try nonetheless. And especially if you remember back to RCL season, I think it was 5. No, it was 6, I think. With the basically 4 wide going into No Name. I think there's a bit of a reason why some people may be a bit more hesitant with that.
Julian Sakura seems to be continuing to try and play mind games with his indicators here.
I hit it on accident. No, he's switching them on the straights. It is mind games.
Seems to be working though, because he's keeping Enrico Breuninger just behind him as the indicator comes on again.
And this will indeed be the final lap. So Enrico Breuninger basically got 2, maybe 3 more chances to get by Julian Chicot. Julian Chicot still wildly on the indicators. Now Enrico Breuninger again going for the outside line into Lecom. Both equal on the brakes. And Enrico Breuninger can slingshot his car by on the outside, and this time he stays in front out of Malmedy, but can Chicot counter-attack it now into Bruxelles? He's having a look down the inside, but it's more of a dummy move. But what a fight again between these two. It's not too long ago that they fought for a win on this track. Now they are fighting for a podium like it's a win.
But yeah, they obviously know each other very well. Different cars, so different driving styles are a little bit different, but not giving each other an inch, but doing it respectfully.
Oh, but Chico just slightly nudging the rear end of Enrico Breuninger there, really loosening up his own car. He will have one more chance going into the bus stop.
There's always one more chance with the bus stop.
Yeah. You see Dominic Lala coming out of the final turn to take victory here in Spa-Francorchamps. Alizar will be second, but who will be third? It's Enrico Breuninger, just in front of Julian Chicot, who's trying to go the long way around the outside, trying to undercut and do it again, and it will be a drag race, but Enrico Breuninger blocked Julian Chicot there on the exit, and he is gonna take third place in this race. What a final fight between these two.
The cheeky block move at the end there.
Rooms, yes, will come home 5th with the damage he got in that fight, or at that incident in Stavelo. Still very respectable. Not too far off the lead pack. Emil, got close to him, but in the end, P6 for him. Piotr Zadaibe for NGS RT is gonna close out in P7. And the last count track is Michael G for GST. But yeah, very interesting race, very unfortunate for a lot of people. But what a fight for the podium it has been in the end.
Yeah, it was maybe not the fight we were all expecting, or especially some of the drivers, but a great fight nonetheless for the last place on the podium. Great win by Dominic Ladler, narrowly missing out in the end on best lap to Ali Zahir, who got within 5 seconds at the end. He tried. Starting from the back was just too much of a handicap.
Yeah, indeed, but still a very valiant effort from them. And we got a new standings table, of course, with all of that. And this one looks like this. Dominic Ladler on 72 points in front of Ali Zahir on 69 points. So
nice.
now there are 3 points difference. It hardly makes a difference. But yeah, Ali Zahir, as said, coming from the back of the grid, very respectable in that. Some more points to be calculated after the race from the second split, of course. But as of now, Julian Chico 56 points, Enrico Boiniger closing in the gap a tiny bit with 43 to his name now. Piotr Zadaibe on 38, and then it's Emi on 35 with Ruben CS on 33. So still a lot of stuff to play for the final podium position, just like in RCL. And the fight between Dominic Ladler and Ali Zahir continues when we go to Road Atlanta next week. Will be interesting.
It always is. Like you said earlier, I like a Road Atlanta race. I'm not going to deny it. I like a M2CS race, so it's double win for me.
Indeed so. And one thing that may be very interesting about Road Atlanta is that if you think about where Dominic Ladler typically had his comeback drives, it is Road Atlanta. So I think
That's true.
It's a track that really suits him. Whether this will be the case in the BMW M2, that is to see. But still, will be very interesting. I think it was a very interesting weekend for racing. If you want to watch some more, watch back the RCL race from yesterday, because that was really insane. And yeah, with that said, enjoy the rest of your weekend. See you next week. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.